Welcome back to another episode of Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. I am your host, Keiran, and with me is Jax.
Hey, Keiran. Good to hear you and, figuratively see you in my mind.
I can see you. You're coming through on my very high-tech display.
Exciting.
That I have hooked up. We're in lockdown again, unfortunately. But we're making it work, and Jax is being wired in.
Through futuristic tech, you know.
Yes. This week, we're spoiling James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. So, Jax, as you know, recently we've been doing our quick thoughts right at the top of the episode. So, I am going to set a 1-minute timer for you.
Oh shit, pressure's on.
Yeah, and you're going to give your very, very quick thoughts and then pass it back over to me, and then we'll get into the spoiler talk. So I will start the timer now.
So, first thing, when in doubt to future filmmakers, if the property is done badly, all you need to do apparently is add the. After 5 years of living in this crazy world where the DC have botched so many seemingly obviously perfect films like a Batman vs Superman, Suicide Squad, getting all the team together, all these villains and stuff, we finally get a movie that does the Suicide Squad justice. It's violent. It's hilarious from start to finish. It is an absolute beautiful film to watch. It's got everything you want from A-list to D-list villains all coming together. It's got a little bit of sneaky heart in there. It's got everything I want from a movie. I think this is the best DC movie since The Dark Knight for completely different reasons, but it still just does so much right. I actually cannot believe that we have a movie called The Suicide Squad, which could be one of my favorite superhero movies, and we have a movie called Suicide Squad, which is probably the worst superhero movie.
And that's 1 minute.
Oh, God! No!
No, I think you got it all out. That was pretty good.
No, yeah, I got enough out.
Yeah.
Alrighty, get in my phone, get in the timer. And Keiran, start.
All right, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. It's refreshing. It's unique. It's so James Gunn in the best way. I would say this is more similar to the beginning of his career than the Guardians films, which he progressed into. It's got so much more of his voice permeating through. This is the movie that he wrote when he got fired from Marvel, and it feels like this is what you would make after you got fired from the biggest company on earth. It's a big fuck you, but it's amazing. It's exciting, it's visceral, it's subversive, it's surprising, it's riveting. And if I had one negative, I would maybe just say, although we'll go into more detail, that it is not really about anything, but that doesn't really matter. I think it's great.
Oh my God. A minute. Boom. That was, oh my God. We're gonna look back at that tape, and that was a perfect minute summary. Well done, my friend. All right, let's get into this. Let's get into this fucking movie. All right. What do you want to start with? I reckon we start with the roster of characters, yes? The Suicide Squad.
Sure.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
So, this film has so many wonderful, amazing DC villains, anti-heroes, just characters. It is balls to the wall with them all. Some of them are realized so perfectly and so spectacularly. I mean, I'm kind of in awe. Like, I knew I was going to be impressed with this movie as soon as I saw the King Sharks and the Weasels and your polka dot men and those kind of characters, and then actually seeing them properly kind of transformed into real characters and not just visual little bits in the trailer where you're like, oh, that King Shark looks good. He looks like from the Harley Quinn show, exactly the same, but characterized really differently in this, but realized in that way that live action sometimes can kind of not fall flat, but sometimes CGI and the director's vision can maybe get too big for what they can actually deliver on. But this to me was like, we'll get into... this is a spoiler show, so I can say it right now. Starro. There's Starro on this, and he's fucking insane, and it looks spectacular. Let's just do you want to just go through the characters and maybe let's get into that very first 10-15 minutes? Because it starts off and it's like, hey, you remember the Suicide Squad? We get Michael Rooker as some character that's like pretty much the same as Bloodsport, which they have a really funny gag with. And then they go through, they introduce everybody. We get a great scene where we get Captain Boomerang is back, who's way better this time. We get Harley Quinn back. And then we get sent on a mission straight away. And then, oh man, something happens, doesn't it, Keiran?
It all goes pear-shaped, and it's amazing. It's so good. It's the perfect way to start this film. The two teams of the Suicide Squad are split up. One team make it very discreetly in through the side entrance, I suppose, and I guess primary team gets absolutely eviscerated. The moment you know that everything's not going to go right is when comedian Pete Davidson walks up and surrenders, throws himself at the whim of the enemy, the unnamed enemy, and his face gets blown off. Completely blown off. Have you seen Super and Slither?
I have. Not for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to revisit. Because, yeah, as you said in the opening, this film kind of has, like, you know, that feeling like, like there's a bit Guardians of the Galaxy here and there. But it really reminded me of Super.
Yeah.
With its just balls to the wall, violence, gore, a little bit of heart, and a little bit of, not a little bit, this movie is fucking hilarious. But it's got this really, like, kind of, not angry, but this really intense kind of vibe of, like, the destruction and violence is really shocking and intense at times.
Well, the reason I brought up, Slither and Super, specifically, because there's actually, like, and spoilers for Super. If you haven't seen Super, go and watch Super. But actually, I won't spoil it. There's a character in Super who gets their face blown off. And it's a lead character, and it's just as surprising. It's at the end of the film as opposed to this one at the beginning, but it just immediately reminded me of that moment. And I thought, oh, good. If you're going to take anything from those old projects and weave it into this, I mean, the fact that it's at the beginning of the film now, and that you got one of the biggest comedians on the planet, who is also has an incredible, like, punchable face quality. I think that like a lot of people seem to really dislike him. I don't mind him. I don't think I've ever seen his stand up, but I think that's the moment you know really that, okay, he's actually going to do it. He's actually, like, nobody's really safe here. And then doubles down in it by then killing actually, just before that, and I've already forgotten about a character's death because there's so many. The Weasel, who jumps out of the ship and drowns.
Oh, so heartbreaking. When the Weasel gets introduced, it, like, pans across everyone. You have Javelin in a great costume, Mongal looking amazing with all the orange stuff, and then Weasel's just like, and you're like, what the fuck? I cannot believe how incredible Weasel looked. I was so excited to see Weasel about. My favorite joke is when they're all sitting on the ship at the start, getting there, and he's like, is this a dog? And then he's like, it's a werewolf, and all this stuff. And he's like, hey, he's harmless. Well, he's not harmless. He's killed 27 children. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is this monster? He's barely sentient. He's fucking looking deranged. His eyes are darting about. And then suddenly you're kind of like thrown with so many things right at the start where he jumps off into the water, starts drowning. Amanda Waller is bringing her A game with just that deadpan, slight look around to the team, being like, what the fuck? Whose job was it meant to be to find out if he could swim? And you kind of get this human incompetence from Amanda Waller's crew. You get this really funny kind of thing, but also kind of the brutal nature of fucking anyone's gonna die. And when that happened, I was kind of like, oh man, it's on. And then it's, you know, get Pete Davidson's head blown off. And then you get Captain Boomerang, all the trees from the helicopter flick, like all the spikes, just hit him all over the face. He does this smile. He's had really great chemistry with Harley Quinn, where it's like, is this a movie is this a sequel to the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Or Suicide Squad, sorry. Because it's like, they kind of know each other. And then she's like, Boomerang, no! And like, he just explodes. And that was when I went, oh my God, like...
No one's safe. It's not just the new people.
They're really going to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's... That first scene to me, I think, is maybe my favorite, like, Act 1 of any movie I can think of, like, just off the top of my head.
Prologue, would it be? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even the prologue. It actually kind of quite reminds me of my other favorite DC film, The Dark Knight, where you just get such a perfect 6 to 7 minute intro of, like, what the Joker's about, and then that face reveal of the Joker where he's like, you know, he said that line and stuff, but it just does so much to, like, kind of make for the rest of the film. I've got this tension of, like, they could do anything. Anything is possible. But also, that first Suicide Squad has so little character and feeling when it's trying to have so much. It's like, here's a song, here's Eminem, here's Sympathy for the Devil, here's all these things, here's colour, here's this, here's that. We've got Will Smith. And it's trying to do so much with so little. Whereas this film, immediately, I was given so much kind of style and vibe. Like, you start off with Michael Rooker throwing the ball around, and how do we show that he's a great, you know, marksman with any weapon? He kills that bird, and then 3 minutes later, that's a bird of the same kind of type of bird is eating his brain out. And
so I wanted to talk about that specifically because I think the opening shot of the movie is Michael Rooker through the lens of a puddle upside down, and the shot slowly spins up around, and we get what we think, and it is, but what we think is a setup for something that will come back later with this character. And he kills a little bird with a ball with perfect aim, bounces it off all the walls. And you're like, all right, so his marksmanship is going to come back into this. And it's Michael Rooker, James Gunn favorite. You know, we know what we're in for here. He's setting it up. And to open with that shot and then have that character nonchalantly head exploded. And then a little bird come and just rip pieces of flesh off the eviscerated head. I really thought that was great. You know, it would have been so easy to just open with a shot of Idris Elba or you know, or Harley Quinn or someone who we're going to be with for the rest of the movie, but
it does this really clever thing where it's like, if you're aware of James Gunn in any way, you know that Michael Rooker's been in maybe all of his films, all the ones I've seen, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember if he's in Super, but like, he's kind of like his go-to guy, and we get the introduction of he's like, I don't want to be part of this Suicide Squad, and he's like, we don't call it Suicide Squad anymore, all that stuff, and he's kind of our like, what do you call it, audience surrogate of like, he's kind of being introduced. We open a door and like, it's like kind of, he sees the Weasel and all these characters, they do that big walk with the flag in the background, and you're kind of like, all right, he's going to be our kind of entry-level character. We've started with him, and then to have his brains being picked apart by the bird, like a type of bird that he just killed, as it comes up with written and directed by James fucking Gunn, with this beautiful shot. He's in the water, and like it's just really like beautiful looking shot, and it's kind of like, oh man, this is such a clever little misdirect, because I kind of was hoping that the film would do something like have an opening scene where we have a squad mission and it all goes pear-shaped and we get that suicide part of the Suicide Squad where they can all die, and like the original movie had a headshot explosion of some Slipknot character, but they didn't even have him in the marketing. So it's like, if you were vaguely aware of the movie, you kind of knew he wasn't going to be, you know, just didn't have any stakes or feeling to it. Whereas when
it's so telegraphed ahead of time, like you can just see it coming.
100%, Whereas this one, when he's running away and then she's like, open the kill box, and then she's like, God damn it, and he puts the key in and blows his head up. And then we get that like title sequence where it's like another thing that the old Suicide Squad movie did, where it's just like song. Oh, you bored? Song. And in this one, it has a lot of kind of pop rock, kind of, you know, nice, good songs in it, but it does it in a way that just yeah, just have a song here. And it didn't feel kind of like it was trying to make me enjoy the movie by playing good music.
And
which
that
the other
was,
one really feels like.
Yeah, the 2016 Suicide Squad felt, I mean, it was very much trying to replicate the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, which had come out, I think, 2014. And
2016.
No, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
I have no idea which year. Sorry.
2014, and then yeah, it just felt very responsive to that, and you could tell that they had just, like, Warner Brothers or DC or whoever was making all these decisions they doubled down so far, and it was ultimately 2016 when Batman v Superman came out. That was the point at which they really pulled the plug on everything, and they destroyed two potentially really good movies. I mean, Justice League we have the Snyder Cut. We know what they did to it. We know, like, part of the reason, because you said to me a couple of times this week, hey, we should do the other Suicide Squad, and there was just this niggling part in the back of my head, like the same part of me that doesn't want to talk about Josh Trank's Fantastic Four also doesn't want, like, and I'm not trying to make a joke here, I'm just saying, like, I feel bad criticizing something that isn't the person's vision. I mean, They ripped that movie away from David Ayer. They chopped it up. A trailer company came in and filled it with terrible music. I mean, he said he had the score done for the film. There was no music in his cut. It was just a traditional film score. So, I mean, it would be very easy to just rip 2016 Suicide Squad apart again, as it would be Justice League, as it would be Fantastic Four 2015. Yeah. But there's just something in the back of my mind that goes, no, look, I'm happy to take Zack Snyder's Justice League and criticize it, because he's actually saying, this is my vision, this is what I wanted to put out, this is how I want people to see it. And you know, I feel much more comfortable talking about that. And, you know, with this film, this is James Gunn's vision, you know. It doesn't feel like it's been ripped away and pulled apart and manhandled and put back together and then pushed out. So it's very easy to criticize things. You know, the studios don't know. These business people, they don't have the artistic bones to put together a feature film of this size. It's really difficult. Like, there's so many beats you got to hit. There's so many moments you need to achieve for it all to kind of come together in the end. And hearing about, like, you know, the 2016 Suicide Squad, the villain was meant to be Steppenwolf, and he was meant to have a mother box, and that was the big third act. And then that all got changed too. So this big interconnected cinematic universe that they had hired these people to make, they then just took it all off them, chopped it up into pieces, and then released it. And it's really, really a shame. Like you said, you know, this is my favorite DC film since The Dark Knight. Had they not done this, who knows where DC would be now? You know, they would have beaten Infinity War and Endgame to the big 2-part crossover thing. And, you know, like that first Justice League would have come out in 2017. But 1 year before Infinity War, it would have been, you know, felt so much fresher and ahead of the curve than it coming out in 2021. And then knowing that was meant to be 2 parts, and it was going to originally end with Lois Lane being killed and this dark, dour, depressing ending, and all these plans that they had set up, it all just got jettisoned, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, like, to be fair, I did start off this podcast by saying, fuck original Suicide Squad. But I don't mean fuck whatever the director's name is.
Of course, David Ayer.
But yeah. Like, because obviously, absolute travesty. If I tried to make a movie and then someone took it away and they'd made Suicide Squad 2016, I'd kill myself. It's like, you'd be so heartbroken. I have recently heard about that Steppenwolf stuff. Obviously, because this movie's coming out, he's come out and said a couple more things. And that soundtrack thing to me was the big thing where I went, holy shit, dude. I reckon my main memory of that movie is it's like, and now we've got Eminem's Without You, and now we've got this song, and then this, and like within the first 20 minutes, I reckon there's like 7 songs. It actually reminds me of another movie that just goes balls to the wall. Are you bored? Here's a song, which Cruella does to interesting effects. But it kind of, I can't even imagine that movie without all those, you know, songs and stuff like that. this, and so just, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't want to, like, throw down on that movie, but it is, like, just as the movie, like, the corporate movie that it ended up being made, it is, I hated it so much, and Suicide Squad to me is such a, not a home run, but I love DC, I love all the villains, I love how many quirky, insane, wacky characters there are, so just to finally have them kind of do it in a pretty great way, like, I barely have any issues with this movie. But, like, I don't know, even if, like, a lesser director had got this and done this same idea, I think it would have been pretty good. But something James Gunn almost immediately does with this film, from the get-go, is, like, the way we're introduced to everyone. He hasn't gone, okay, we're going to do a Suicide Squad, they're all going to die, then let's cut, and let's reintroduce a Suicide Squad. He's like, what if there are two teams? And how about I inform everyone about Amanda Waller and how much of a fucking bitch she is by having her throw Rick Flag, who seems to be like the kind of go-to team leader, and I'll just throw him and Harley Quinn and bloody Australia's greatest supervillain, Captain Boomerang, man who robs every bank we have apparently, if this is in the same universe. But like, I'll throw them all into a team. I'm going to Suicide Squad them properly and have them just as a diversion. I don't care if they all die. And the moment that I felt like the filmmaking of James Gunn, maybe not just James Gunn, but just his like command over what he wants this movie to be, is we've got a really great song happening and it's all tragedy and it's broken and it's awful. And then suddenly the music just switches and Amanda Waller's like, what about team 2? And the music cuts out for a second. The titles start appearing and all the team just start doing their paperwork and their computer stuff and it starts moving around, and then Idris Elba comes out of the water and the music's quiet and slow and the pace just suddenly changes and you're sitting there being like, holy shit, that just happened. There's no more like music, and then suddenly he's like, how did we get on the beach? There's no one in all these tents and we've got a clear thing. And she's like, oh, I don't know, let's just say they were distracted. And then the music kicks back in again and it's like boom, 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 the Suicide Squad. And we get the main cast coming out of the water. And I just felt like that kind of tempo change was just exceptional filmmaking. And from that point, I really was just like, this is masterful. Like, I don't want to like suck James Gunn's dick too much, but you know, it's pretty great stuff. And I was really impressed by just how everything was done. And yeah, just that start. I really think that he just does so much so well. Like, he's like, hey, what if I get Nathan Fillion, huge actor, to play mysterious TDK? And then Javelin's like even says like, what does TDK stand for? And he's like, that's me, it stands for me. And then when we get that reveal, we get introduced to kind of Rick Flag's incredible humor, where he's just, you know, trying to just be the macho tough guy dealing with all this, but he's like does incredible lines where he's like, I didn't pick the fucking team. Like, man, when he detaches his arms as the detachable kid, and then his arms, like, instead of, like, shooting off his big muscle Superman arms and punching and doing what I expected, they just, like, slowly float and start slapping everyone about. It has just insane, incredible, I don't know, I was really impressed by kind of the diverse use of characters. And we weren't getting, every death in that first scene wasn't, like, big and crazy, like Boomerang gets an insane death, but then Mongol just like burns alive. Javelin just gets shot a bunch of times. It's kind of like, it creates this really, for me it felt like quite real for such an obscene kind of moment, that it all kind of really comes together into kind of a perfect start to a film. I don't know.
Absolutely, that's what a great prologue does. It encapsulates the entire film in 5 or 10 minutes. It sets you up for what the film is going to be, you know, for what the rest of the ride is going to be. And like you said, The Dark Knight has maybe one of the greatest prologues ever for a comic book movie, or for maybe even just a movie, in that it so perfectly establishes the universe and sets everything up. And this movie is exactly the same. You know what you're in for. If you don't enjoy that first 5-10 minutes, turn it off, because it's just more of this, and bigger and better and funnier and more riveting. So our main character is Idris Elba, who is not Deadshot or Deathstroke. He is Bloodsport. Is that his name?
Bloodsport, yeah.
And he has a alien xenomorph mask. And I thought, as soon as I saw it, I was like, what? Does he have this in the comics? So I Googled the character, and he just has like a dumb, like orange mask in the comics. So that's a complete sidestep, which good, you know. But I like the fact that the movie kind of recognizes in a meta way, but also directly, that this character is kind of just the same as in the last movie, but then doubles down on it by having Peacemaker walk out and Amanda Waller be like, and he's just the same as you again. And
Are you having a joke?
Yeah, and that felt that is almost like a commentary on that first movie. And then it just keeps getting pushed further and further, because in 2016 Suicide Squad, they attempt to make us resonate with Will Smith by giving him a daughter relationship. And this movie says, fuck that. This guy's going to tell his daughter to get fucked 16 times in a row so that you couldn't possibly like this guy.
Yeah. I thought that was so incredible where they're like, okay, because like actually like, you know, like behind the scenes, like they originally did try to get Will Smith, or like, or they had ideas where they're like, maybe we'll use him. And the only reason that he hasn't recast as Deadshot, because they kind of wanted that same leader kind of role, is that they wanted to keep Deadshot possible for Will Smith to come back as that character if he ever did want to come back.
Well, the
so
rule,
like, let's just recast him as someone who's pretty much the same.
The rule for Will Smith is that he only accepts terrible movies. He famously turned down The Matrix. He famously turned down Django Unchained. And
Really?
And now he has famously turned down the only way he would have redeemed himself from the 2016 film. Look, I don't want Will Smith in this movie. I think Will Smith is massively overrated. Maybe controversial opinion, maybe not anymore. I really just, I don't find him a likable, gravitating screen presence. I mean, he has been at times, but...
do you mean like now, or do you mean like even back in Men in Black days? Because in that first Men in Black, he's incredible.
Men in Black doesn't do it for me.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh my god! Hot takes coming out of you today. Oh Lord!
I'm not a fan of Will Smith. I think honestly the most likable he's ever been and the best he's ever been was on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I've never seen that show. I've just seen clips on YouTube. It doesn't look like it's for me. But that's really surprising.
Yeah.
I really want to do on this podcast one time Gemini Man, where it's Will Smith versus young Will Smith. You'll fucking hate it so much.
But that's that idea in itself is so dumb, because he is a man that has barely aged in 20 years, and they spent $100 million to de-age a guy who has barely aged. What a waste of money. Get someone grizzled and old for that role that you can actually de-age. Don't get Will Smith, who looks like a 30-year-old who's actually almost 50 or whatever he is, and then de-age him to 20. What a waste of money. What a dumb idea. I bet that movie's bad.
You know what's so amazing? The only good part of the movie is how good the de-aging looks in some of the scenes. Some of the scenes I'm like, holy fuck, that looks so good.
That movie,
but honestly,
it seems like a collection of bad ideas. I think he shot it at like 120 frames a second.
Oh yeah, no. I didn't see it like that because I don't think you can on your TV, but like, no, it would be unwatchable. And a lot of the action is some of the worst CGI you'll ever see, because they spent so much money in like 2 or 3 scenes where Will Smith talks to himself and you're like, what the fuck? Look at that sweat on his brow. That's all fake. But no, you literally, if you saw the film, everything you just said 10 seconds ago would be your review. It's an atrocious movie. Mary Elizabeth Winstead makes me kind of enjoy it a little bit. But it's bad. It's bad. But so you much prefer Idris Elba than Will Smith as your lead, yeah?
He is a commanding screen presence. I mean, I love him. I think he's great in Pacific Rim. I love him in the BBC TV show Luther. I think that.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh my God, Jax, you are missing out. You would love it. Absolutely love it. It's so good.
As well. Yeah.
It's fantastic. He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. I'm so glad Will Smith said no. I could not be happier.
Yeah, no, I had a mate who actually texted me at some point recently, and he was like, "Oh, did you like Will Smith or Idris Elba?" Because they kind of felt like they had that same role. You know, he had that same kind of thing we're kind of gone with, where it's like they kind of feel like they are playing that same role. And I didn't get into it too much with him, but it's like Idris Elba. I am so glad they got him. His command and presence over just certain scenes, like when Amanda Waller like brings out like maximum bitch, where she's like, I'll have your daughter imprisoned here. She's 16, you piece of shit. You don't even know what age she is. I'll fucking have her. And it's I mean, I'm not proud of it, but she seems kind of proud of it. But at my prison, everyone dies here. Maximum death rate here. And he's like brings out the pen on her neck, and they have that screaming off. Like, I was suddenly like, oh my god, he's bringing so much gravitas in a way that I think Will Smith kind of does, charming and fun. I know you don't like, but I find him quite charming and fun. But Idris Elba has a bit of scary gravitas.
I don't not like him. I think he has delivered good performances. I think he's a fine actor. I just don't. I don't find him to be the guy you should get for your big blockbuster movie. For me, he just doesn't win me over like many other actors do. And not to say he's bad, not to say he's terrible, anything like that. I like him in The Pursuit of Happiness. I think he delivers a really good dramatic performance in that. But I don't think he's the guy that everyone thinks he is, as you know, the action megastar. I think he kind of got that just by proxy of being part of an ensemble cast in Independence Day, and then obviously.
Oh, I love him in that, yeah.
and exactly, he's good in that because less is more with this guy, I think.
100%, yeah.
But anyway, let's stop talking about him and let's talk about this fantastic movie.
So I just wanted to say, we've gone on to Idris Elba because you called him the main character. I would like to interject my own thoughts on that. Ooh. I don't think he's the main character. Okay. I think he's the second main character. I think we have a sneaky, cheeky little main character, but maybe not main character, maybe just the soul of the movie in Ratcatcher 2. I think Ratcatcher 2 has all the heart, all the soul, with only a couple of scenes. Maybe I would have loved just one more scene to kind of fully cement it, but I actually rewatched this movie this morning, and it really came through to me this time. Like a few things to do with like the themes, but especially her character. I think she does a really great job with being kind of beautifully sincere and kind of heartwarming, and like we get this really great moment with her towards the end when we get a flashback with bloody Taika Waititi of all people, as her father. Which I have more to say when we get to kind of that at the end, but I actually found her to be, you know, it starts off and she's like very sleepy at the start, and she's just kind of a bit fun and silly, and you know, they're introduced to her and they're like, Ratcatcher, and John Cena's like, you couldn't afford Ratcatcher 1, and she's like, hey, he's dead, we got the second one or whatever, and she kind of comes across as, you know, a D-list villain. And then
but that's really a great setup for later when we get the revelation about the dad. Great little piece of dialogue that
100%. And I just think that the way that she kind of progresses through this movie, and then when we get essentially the two macho men, like, you know, she's like, I'll introduce you to the team of all these people that are super different. Here's Idris Elba. His father raised him as a super killer. He's really good. And then the same thing for John Cena's character. And then both of them have a little spout about who's the best shot. And then it comes back, Chekhov's gun bullet through another bullet, and we get that moment with those two. And that's over the fact that John Cena's got a gun on Ratcatcher 2. And I think she kind of provides this really sincere kind of through line that I think if you take her out of this, the film doesn't really hold the same kind of emotional weight. Whereas I feel like you almost get rid of any other character and it almost still works because there's so much going on. But it really surprised me because I remember when I heard like the cast and all the wild, colourful characters, Ratcatcher 2 made me go, okay, yeah, cool, yep, all right. I'm not really excited to see that. Whereas she ended up being maybe. I was going to say my favourite character, then I'm like, oh, I forgot about Weasel, I forgot about King Shark, I forgot about Peacemaker, I forgot, you know, there's just so many characters to love.
And she has the greatest, I mean, she has maybe the most agency. She is the hero of the film for sure. I mean, she at the end in a wonderful sequence that is kind of right in front of you, because it's this kind of desolate jungle, I guess kind of third world island country, which absolutely would be just covered in rats. And when they poured out of the jungle and out of the rubble, I just thought, this is magnificent. Perfect way to tie this up and to stop this villain and to I think maybe be a kind of a catalyst for Idris Elba. I mean, there's not really any spoken words about it, but there's obviously like a through line there where she has the relationship with the father, he has this relationship with his daughter. They both see in each other parts of their familial relationships that they have regret, or and they come together in a great way. I think that both storylines feed off and inform each other, and then by the time we get to the end, just the look between the two says so much more than words can. I think that works really well.
100%. Yeah. So let's potentially move to some of the other main characters we get. What did you think about Harley Quinn and Rick Flag? Two of the only two characters really to be from the other movie that kind of survive.
So let's start with Rick Flag, because it'll probably be shorter. Rick Flag is almost unrecognizable from the last movie. I mean, it's still Joel Kinnaman. He's still buff and handsome.
God, he's so handsome. Oh my God.
but he's man, James Gunn knows how to put a shirt on a handsome guy, doesn't he? Like Peter Quill in the Guardians films, like, man, they rock the best shirts.
It's just gotta be slightly too tight.
Just a touch, and with a quirky off-kilter design. It's wonderful. There's not a huge amount to say. He's really there to I guess support a few of the beats in the movie, and he's not doing anything bad, he's not doing anything wrong. I think he delivers exactly what he needs to, but his character is kind of jettisoned to push parts of the plot forward and get the story going. And he wasn't really anything in the other movie. I'm okay with that. I was not invested particularly in this character. It's fine. He's the quasi leader of the group. But yeah, he delivers a great performance. He has his action little set pieces are good. He has a commanding presence, but apart from that, he's there's not too much else for him to do. What do you think?
I actually think he almost is my favorite character in this movie. I think the change from how much I wished he was great. I mean, I wished everything was great in that other movie. And I don't want to get too much bogged down in 2016's Suicide Squad, because it's just, I fucking hate it so much. But it's like, he is in that movie, and to me, he's become this insane meme where he's like, the amount of times I've seen on YouTube where it's like, this is Katana. She's got your back. She's got a sword with souls or whatever. And it's like, there's so many aspects of him that are just like, I love that actor. I don't know, there's something about him that, really works for me. And literally, I remember seeing in the trailer, he's wearing his yellow shirt, as you said, brilliantly, perfectly tight. And he's just so ripped and epic, and he just has this really great vibe where I totally buy him as the Rick Flag character. And like, as soon as he rocks up and he's like, hey, savants, welcome to the Suicide Squad. We don't like calling it the Suicide Squad. It's Tax Fox-esque. And he has like little funny bits where he's like the Weasel line where he's like, Weasel's harmless. Well, he's not harmless. He's killed 27 children, but we've got him to do this, I think. And he's got other lines where like they've murdered everybody in like the gorilla town early on. And
that was just like so wonderful.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, like, these guys, they're all just a bunch of fuckwits. And she's like, is that rat waving at me? And he's like, I don't know, I guess the rat's, like, friendly. And he has this really kind of macho, deadpan vibe that I thought really, really worked. And I think his death, for me, was the most heartbreaking. Like, that was, like, to me, just like, oh my God, I can't believe you, like, fucking, you killed him. Like, and then he takes the kind of stance against Peacemaker later on when the movie kind of takes that like emotional turn, when it's like all the kind of villains that are now kind of working as, it just kind of has this kind of, I don't know, he has that kind of moral center. I really like that he's kind of friends with a lot of them. He knows Idris Elba's character, Boomerang, and all these. He feels like, I really bought that he's that guy that kind of works with the Suicide Squad, which was kind of implied in the other movie, but mostly like everything in that other movie, just didn't really gel for me. And I thought his performance was really good.
He should be the beating heart of 2016 Suicide Squad because he is the only emotional attachment to the villain. But they never milk it.
Yeah, no, they don't at all. I literally forgot about that till you said that.
yeah, it's a shame. And it's I don't mean to sound critical. I just don't think there's a huge amount. I think he achieves everything he's doing. His comedic performance is great. He's there kind of, I guess, as the glue of the team in a way, if there is any. It's a very weak glue holding them together. but also, there's not, the glue is kind of the relationships that form over the course of the film. So even without him, I think that you still get to that end point. So his moments are good. I think he serves, the purpose he serves, he achieves perfectly. But beyond 100%, 100%. That, when he died, it was more devastating because I support, I'm like, yeah, leak the Starro shit, I'm on his side at that moment more than
for sure,
I want more of this character over, another 4 films or anything like that.
He gets a bizarrely, how like every film, every death in the movie has like, it's kind of feels like it's not the same, but just like that he suddenly gets like a close up of his heart, more combat like style, where you get like the stab into the heart, into the actual organ. And I was like, oh my god,
yeah,
so just
Aren't we meant to like this guy? Why are you doing this?
What actually, it's just a bit of a cheeky segue. I think what really worked for me maybe in that scene is that we have the opposing forces of Rick Flag versus John Cena's Peacemaker. And John Cena, holy shit. I mean, I know you haven't seen F9, but he does not bring the goods in that movie. And in this movie, I really thought he was on fire. Like his eyes in that scene where he's like, I'm doing this for peace. Because I'm Peacemaker. Like, as I said earlier in the film, I'm all for peace, but I'll kill every child in this room if it means peace for America. I'll eat every dick on this beach for liberty, which is probably my favorite line in the movie. Who knows what madmen do? And like, so funny. I think he absolutely nailed some really dumb stuff, like the dick eating beach scene. Like, he's wearing whitey tighties and he calls Idris Elba on racism for calling him whitey tighties and just some really dumb, silly stuff. But he sells it, bro. Like, oh, man.
He's the personification of what is known as jingoism. And jingoism is an extreme type of nationalism. And you see this sometimes in people. You see this like overwhelming, like, my country is the best because I was born here and I'm in it. And they really ultimately have very little to do with any other. I mean, it's why they say traveling broadens the mind, because you go and see other cultures and learn new things, and you realize that there are just people everywhere trying to live, and the arbitrary border that people drew before you were born is irrelevant. But he is really just this hyped up, pumped up, jingoistic nightmare, and and it's delivered through comedy, which is frightening but hilarious the whole way through. I really, really like that character and that sense of it's odd because he's meant to be a criminal, yet he's just so I mean, he was in the prison at the start of the film, but you could almost forget it. He seems almost like a Rick Flag.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
You do forget that he's in the prison. He does have that kind of same Rick Flag quality where he almost feels like he comes on every Suicide Squad mission, and then you've got a bunch of polka dot King Shark characters.
Yeah, and then the prisoners are with them. But yeah, he is a prisoner too. So that's interesting because he seems it seems at odds with his character. His character is this ultra American macho guy. So it would. I hope the TV show that James Gunn's doing with him explores maybe how he ended up there and what's going on. And I honestly just have no idea what that show's going to be now. But I'm keen. I want more of that character.
Apparently, the reason that show exists is James Gunn made this movie, had all the characters, blah blah blah, and then he started writing. I guess he just kind of fell in love with the Peacemaker character, and maybe he'd already shot it, so he was like, "Oh, John Cena's really surprising is a bit rude to John Cena. I've only seen him in F9, and I was really disappointed, like, to be honest, with like the character and just." I don't know.
Well, I believe this role was intended for Dave Bautista.
I cannot imagine that at all. I cannot imagine that.
I can kind of, but it would be very different. It would be very, very different. And it seems pretty clear that he made the decision in the first draft of his script to kill Peacemaker. So, and then the post-credit scene is the revelation that he's still alive. So he's I
actually think that post-credit scene has made... Because he... So what I was going to say, is that James Gunn, started writing a Peacemaker show in lockdown, during the lockdown that some of us, are still in and all that stuff. And he's writing it and getting it, I don't know, because they said it was going to be a prequel before the movie came out. So that I guess you went, well, maybe he'll die. It's a Suicide Squad movie. And now, obviously, fucking spoilers, he fucking comes back to life. I guess he doesn't die or whatever, but it's implied that he dies in the movie, and then he's not dead. And I kind of found that a bit odd, just because, like, I'd almost prefer him to have died and it to be a prequel series, but maybe it will be a prequel and a sequel series. But I think that maybe that post-credit scene might have been done after the fact.
I think so.
When he wrote this show, just because he was bored in lockdown, and was like, fuck it, I love writing stuff. So he writes the show, and he's like, what skin off it is off my back if I bloody send it off to Warner Brothers or whoever the fuck. And then they read it, and they're like, James Gunn, you've struck gold again, you son of a bitch.
Well, Jax, we watched another film this week that kind of ties in this area, just in one way. So I'll briefly mention it and then we'll move on. But Quentin Tarantino, he made Pulp Fiction with Uma Thurman, and they fell in love, and they came up with all these ideas, these story ideas together. They had an amazing creative relationship on that movie, and then together came up with the idea for Kill Bill, and then they come back together and make that because they had so much fun together. And then out of Kill Bill, Quentin Tarantino meets a stunt woman named Zoe Bell, who he again falls in love with and has such a great time working with, that they together go on to make Death Proof. So it's
Who's Zoe Bell in Death Proof?
She's the lead, the stunt woman, the girl in pink.
Oh my god, the chick who rides the car.
The best part of the movie. Yeah, we'll get to that. Check out our Death Proof discussion coming pretty soon.
The Australian... I mean the New Zealand character, yeah?
Yeah. So she's Uma Thurman's stunt woman. And
wow! I didn't know this.
Yeah. So he wrote that role for her, and she plays herself in Death Proof. So that's why that's what I love. One of the things I love about Death Proof, you got two stunt women in the front and two actresses in the back, and they're in the movie, actresses and stunt women in and out of the movie. I love it. Anyway, we'll get to that.
Dude, that's fucking awesome though.
But it does.
I knew that.
It makes the point here that the creative relationships that you make with people are really bigger determining factors in where creative endeavors go. It's less about like the favorite character and more about like two people jiving and working together in a really creatively collaborative manner. And that's what people want to mine more. So I think that's what John Cena and James Gunn, experienced together, and it invigorated James Gunn to go on and write all of this other stuff. And apparently he's well into season 2 now.
Peacemaker?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I heard him in an interview, and he said that he's directing most of season 1 and he hopes to direct all of season 2. So very interesting to see where it goes. And it's good that he's going to have a continued relationship with DC and Marvel.
That is really interesting. I don't know why, but the idea that he's so into it that season 2 is a possibility it makes me feel like season 1 is the season of Peacemaker isn't kind of a, you know how kind of sometimes studios will be like, we've got this movie and we've got a prequel comic and a sequel series and content, and you just kind of like,
yeah, like
guys,
the Batman, which hasn't come out yet. They've already announced all this shit. Yeah,
that was exactly where I was going to go with it. I am really fearful of the extra content outside of batting mats. I'm literally wearing the shirt of that right now.
Nice. Shout out to the Weekly Planet.
Oh yeah, so good. My favorite shirt. But literally, Robert Batman's Batman is going to hopefully be an amazing movie. I don't care about any sequels or spin-offs or anything. Just if the movie's great, then yeah, let's start getting into that. But I'm really fearful of that dark universe. We're making a universe. It's going to be great. Look at this lab of all these other movies we're going to make. It's calm the fuck down.
Yeah,
take a
just
deep
make
breath.
a good movie first.
But James Gunn, I do feel like when now I'm hearing this kind of what you're saying about it, it feels like he made the Suicide Squad and what I've read online, and then he went, I really like this character. And it wouldn't actually be my pick for a spin-off movie or a spin-off TV series. There's a lot of other characters I'd kind of love to see, you know, like a Rick Flag, Boomerang, Harley Quinn TV series. To me, like a prequel series, that would be a lot of fun to me.
That's kind of the thing I love about James Gunn, is that he always does what you don't quite expect, and he delivers something that you don't know you want yet, and that's kind of what this whole movie is, in a weird way.
That's true, and honestly, I really just want him to make what he wants to make. So
yes.
Peacemaker and John Cena is who he vibed with, and who he vibes with for a prequel, sequel show, or whatever it is. Fuck yeah, cunt. Bloody do it, mate.
Yeah, he's made 5 films, and they're all excellent. They're all fantastic.
Has he only made Slither and Super before?
Guardians 1 and 2, and now the Suicide Squad. Yeah, he's written a lot of other stuff. He was a screenwriter. He wrote the Scooby-Doo movies.
I was going to say Scooby-Doo, which I think are fucking awesome. People have differing opinions on that, but I really like those movies.
Yeah, I can't even remember them, but I'm willing to bet the script's impressive.
They're
if he's involved.
for kids, for sure, but like, you know, they're not a Super or a Suicide Squad, but it's, I don't know, for a Scooby-Doo thing.
Well, yeah,
although I watched them as a kid.
James Gunn makes, I guess, genre pictures. Yeah, like he'll take a genre, he'll add his dark black comedy to it, mix it all together, subvert your expectations, and deliver like just a big 1-2 punch of a movie. That's what he does. And Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy are him at his most watered down, but he's still got the most vision of most of the Marvel movies. He set the tone for the cosmic Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, Thor Ragnarok and Captain Marvel don't look like what they look like without him making 100%. Guardians. Like, he really, his vision and just his visual sense has exploded onto the screen. Everyone loved it. We loved how it looked. We loved how it sounded. We loved the performances. We loved the heart. And even him at his most watered down is fantastic.
I have a little tangent quickly before we get to the Harley Quinns and the polka dots of the characters. I think there's a really great thing this film does, which balances the heart and the humour in a way that ironically involves Taika Waititi, who I think fails at it in another superhero film.
Ooh.
So you were just saying about Guardians of the Galaxy and that humour heart kind of thing, and I think Peter Quill really does a great job as a character of being very funny and very heartfelt in his movies and then in Infinity War. This movie...
It's him and his mum, yeah? And he kind of took that template and applied it to the Suicide Squad and inverted it with Ratcatcher and the dad. You know,
exactly.
Like... That relationship with the mum at the start, and she's like, take my hand, and he doesn't, and he runs out. It's devastating. And then at the end, when he grabs the stone and he sees
Grab that gem, yeah.
Fuck, man, I'm going to cry right now. You know? It's... Yeah.
So I think something that happens in this movie, right towards the end, Ratcatcher 2 puts up her bloody rat summoning Pied Piper magic thingy, and the most disgusting moment of cinema history where just a billion rats come out of the sewers and fucking consume Starro in a brilliantly beautiful, but also, fuck man, I hate rats. I don't care what Taika Waititi says. Oh my god, disgusting. Oh my god.
Well, Jax, I used to have pet rats. So again,
I'm sorry.
controversial opinion, unpopular opinion. I love rats. They're incredible animals. James Gunn actually put rats in this movie because he put Rocket Raccoon in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that made a lot of people go out and try and get pet raccoons, which are terrible, terrible pets. Do not get a pet raccoon. Get a pet rat. Rats are wonderful. They're incredibly social. They're incredibly intelligent. They breed like rats, which is the big, don't get 2 rats because you'll end up with 20. But I think that's part of that, as a filmmaker, as a director, as someone who's like making like pop culture entertainment, he recognized that he had a responsibility to put something in that, if I'm going to put an animal in a movie and my movie's a runaway success again, this has real world ramifications. So I do appreciate that he thought of that and that he put that in. So people yeah.
Oh, sorry, can I just say, I'm having a bit of a laugh. I mean, I do find them super gross and disgusting, but I honestly find the tiny dialogue that Taika Waititi has, where she's like, why rats, Papa? Why rats? And he's like, rats are the most vile and hated creatures, but they have a purpose, like we all do. And I'm like, oh my god, you're breaking into my heart and my soul, it making me question the fact that I fucking despise rats. And it's not really changed my opinion. If a rat came into my room right now, I'd scream and I'd jump on my bed and I'd feel very uncomfortable. But you know what? I hate insects. I'm not a big animal guy, to be honest. But I think it really tapped into this really pure and true kind of aspect of humans. And sometimes we find things repulsive, and then there are people who find them beautiful and amazing, and everything does have a purpose. Fuck, man, I hate spiders. I fucking hate spiders. Do you know what they get rid of? They get rid of goddamn flies, and flies are a pest. Fuck, and everything has... Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really beautiful, really amazing. And it comes at the point where it cuts back to Ratcatcher 2. That actress, she's crying. She's got soot all over her face. There are a million CGI rats crawling all over these dead bodies. And it's just so much heart. And then nobody goes, hey, I'm Korg, a big rock man, and I made a joke to ruin the emotional beat of this scene.
Yeah.
And it honestly, and I don't know if Taika Waititi being in the scene reminded me more so, but it really made me remember Thor Ragnarok, in which a giant fire demon monster comes and explodes a city, and fucking Asgard dies, and you're sitting there being like, oh my god, the emotional weight of Asgard going. And then Korg's like, lol, 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 gag, joke, quippy, quip, quip.
The foundations are still strong, and then it explodes.
Boom. Oh no, actually, we've got to fuck... Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
It's funny, but I really do think that movie has 3 or 4 moments that are heart-wrenching in theory, and that they undercut with jokes in a way that if you're... this movie is literally a comedy. It's a comedy / war film or anti-war film kind of thing. Action... But it's really a comedy at heart. The way Thor Ragnarok is a lot of different things, but kind of a comedy at heart. But I think the comedy undercuts, and maybe just the poor writing in moments like the dad death and stuff, undercuts really strong, powerful moments.
Do you know what the difference is between the two? Is that primarily James Gunn is a screenwriter, and primarily I think Taika Waititi is like an improv riffing. Let's make the movie as we go. So I think that in a lot of areas, something like Thor Ragnarok, it has a sense of energy and vitality and that a lot of other Marvel movies don't have, and it's probably the most fun Marvel movie that it's the one that I would be most willing to just throw on and watch with people on my own, whatever. But you're right, the big emotional beats, unlike Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, because he's written a script and he has a very, very clear idea of where the beats need to be and how we need to achieve where we're going. And, you know, even the whole Odin thing in Thor Ragnarok was completely reshot. If you go look at the original trailers for Thor Ragnarok, it was very clear that Odin was going to be like a homeless, you know, living in the streets of New York. And you know, after the retirement home that he was in was knocked down, that he was just going to be, and then they were going to fight Hela in an alleyway. But Taika Waititi, when he got in and started putting it all together, realized, we actually need this moment to be more emotional. Let's take it to a nice green field and do it there. And now there's this unfortunate, like that whole scene with like Loki, Thor, and Odin.
Fuck.
Well, yeah, it just seems like 3 actors have been composited in together, and it doesn't feel like they're there, and it really needs to feel like they're there in this moment. Yeah. So yeah, you know, you are right in that.
The only thing that I would say that makes me really kind of a bit too negative on the fact that Thor Ragnarok doesn't come in with those daddy issues and all that kind of stuff is like Taika Waititi directed Boy.
The best daddy issues movie ever.
If you haven't seen Boy, don't stop this podcast, but start downloading. I mean, no. Buy Boy illegally.
I just rewatched
in 40
Boy
minutes. Oh, did you really?
I rewatched Hunt for the Wilder-People, Boy, and What We Do in the Shadows this week.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I was on a big Taika Waititi high. I want to watch Jojo Rabbit too. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't seen it? It is. I have a few issues with just. Let's not get into that. But I'd love to talk to you about that after. At some point when you finish watching it. But Boy really, to me, does everything that I wish Thor Ragnarok does, and it just kind of baffles me that he wasn't able to kind of bring that, because it almost feels like that's why they got him, because they're like, yeah, you can do the funny, the quippy, the improv, but what we really need is this emotional connection between Odin and Thor and Loki, and you're the man to bring us both. You can do both. And then, because having the scene in a different, that's very Marvel to be like, actually just CGI them all together on a big green field. It'll look beautiful, blah, 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 blah. And now, years later, we're kind of like, it doesn't look good. That's not his fault necessarily. That's kind of a classic Marvel kind of thing of being like, we can fix it in post. Because mostly, unfortunately, they can fix it in post because their goddamn CGIs are fucking good. But I think that generally speaking, the tone, just generally over the whole film, that tone balance between humor and heart. And I think that this movie, somehow, with a bunch of piece of shit anti-hero, but maybe they'll do the good thing, it really does work a lot more.
Can I just one tangent quickly?
Yes, no.
I want to give you my top 3 daddy issues movies.
Yes. What are they?
At number 3, The Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, interesting.
At number 2, Boy. And at number 1, The Empire Strikes Back.
Should have seen that coming.
All right, continue.
So let's skill on back to the movie The Suicide Squad. Let's talk about another great character that was from Suicide Squad 2016, Harley Quinn.
Well, Jax, I would challenge you on the word great, because I think Harley Quinn as a character sucks.
Oh, shit! So many hot takes. I mean, it's been like 40 minutes since you had a hot take. All right, okay. So you didn't like Harley Quinn in this, or have you just watched Birds of Prey too many times?
I like her in this. I just think as a concept, the character sucks. I think that this is probably the closest. I haven't seen Birds of Prey. Maybe that's good. It doesn't look like it.
There's a really, really great hyena. She has a hyena pet, and the whole movie, all I kept thinking was, the fuck, that hyena looks real. It's like when you look at Weasel and you're like, is that a real Weasel? Is it a dog? You know, but apparently they got a real dog on set and just kind of CGI'd a bit of fur on top. So it kind of, honestly, watch just a couple of clips online for that hyena. It looks spectacular, but it's a bad movie.
I just think the concept of the character is just, I mean, it's basically just a woman Joker, yeah? And it's not even really that.
You know what? I think... I don't know. I'd have to strongly disagree because of the Harley Quinn TV show, which has probably got probably some of the best
that's
stuff.
Not what I'm not saying. I haven't seen that show, and I hear that show's so great.
Good.
All I'm saying here is that the character in concept is not good. And I think a lot of the time Margot Robbie is just wasted because she's one of my favorite actresses. I think she's absolutely phenomenal in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I think every time I see her, she has such incredible presence. And I would honestly just like to see her play something else.
As in, would you even prefer her in this movie as like a different super villain kind of character?
Sure, yeah. Like I guess just the shtick, the grating like Brooklyn accent or whatever it is, and she's just a girl that was tortured that has a baseball bat or a stick, and to watch her be, this movie does the best job of like painting the picture of that like insanity, because when she shoots that guy, it's so horrific.
The president character who she goes to marry.
Yeah, the general or whatever he is. She's so unhinged that I wanted maybe a little bit more of that.
So I'm happy for you to go into more Harley Quinn sucks territory, but just while we're on that president thing, can I just say one kind of thing that I thought really worked with that moment? Like, in terms of her killing the president, I think he becomes the president at that point. That's why he's like, I get control of the tower and the star and stuff. Once she shoots him, she kind of goes on like a whole tirade about how she's dated fucking guys like him before, as in the Joker. Mm-hmm. And to me, it really, really felt like this amazing scene where she doesn't say the Joker's name once, but she goes in this whole thing where she's like, man, if you've got fucking shitty taste in men like I do, and they're fucking homicidal maniacs every time, because I'm a homicidal maniac, when you see a red flag, like killing children, you just gotta do the right thing and kill them. It really had this bizarre kind of parallel to Peter Parker in Civil War's speech about Ben, where he's like, man, if you... Yeah. He has the same speech where in Civil War... Captain America Civil War, he has this speech about Ben, and he does the great power with great responsibility speech, but he doesn't say anything, and if you don't know what he's talking about, you have no idea what he's talking about. But fucking everybody who gives a shit about these characters in these movies has seen all the other movies and all the other things. We get what they're talking about, so they can talk in ways where the character knows what she's talking about. She's talking about her past with the Joker, and maybe other boyfriends that are Joker-esque and all this stuff. And I actually found that to be maybe my favorite Harley Quinn live-action moment, where she just has this
Without
breakdown.
a doubt.
And he's bleeding out and splattering. And then she has this horrific line where she's like, and I love your giant penis or whatever, but fuck, you look pretty beautiful now. And I'm like, what the fuck, cunt? You're evil as hell. But then later, when she's shooting and killing everyone, you get this Snow White birds and lavender flowers and shit moment, and I'm like, dude, she's fucking unhinged as hell. Like, this is scary.
Yeah, no, and all of that is fantastic. All I'm trying to say is, and I think this maybe even you could tie this into like a character like Boba Fett, where just because the character looks so cool, that she's kind of persisted to the point that people are just willing to keep writing and trying new things with the character and make her good. Over time, people are making her good. Apparently, the animated show is wonderful and does an incredible job at that.
It's really good.
She was an animated TV show character. I've seen that character from her inception. I don't think just at the core of the character that it's particularly interesting or engaging to me, I suppose.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah.
But people are making it good because, it's like Boba Fett is nothing in the original trilogy of Star Wars, and now with the prequels and now the Mandalorian, they're fleshing this character out and they're going to make this character good because the character looks so cool. The appearance of the character is just so captivating that we will not stop until they're the best character. And that seems like what's happening with Harley Quinn. And I'm all for it, honestly. I would love to have my mind changed. I would love, a few years down the track to be like, this character that sucked, that was just this, like, simple idea, has blossomed into something brilliant. And
honestly, that is a really interesting comparison with Boba Fett. And just one thing to kind of hype you for the Harley Quinn animated show is if the book of Boba Fett's new show coming out in December, is half the show the Harley Quinn anime show is, he'll be the best Star Wars character ever. That's how well she's written in that show, and they kind of grab stuff from new comics with her and Poison Ivy. But also, that show has King Shark being the same looking King Shark as this, but he's like a Shakespearean, like he's like, not Shakespearean, sorry, that's Clayface. He's like really smart and like educated and
the opposite of this King Shark.
Spoke, yeah. Instead of this one, he's like Sylvester Stallone being like, I read book. I'm smart. Which actually, one last Harley Quinn thing. What was your thought on the Javelin just subplot? Like, she gets Javelin's javelin. She doesn't know why she gets Javelin's javelin, because Javelin dies mid. You get the javelin because you're so amazing, and then what? And then he dies. But then at the end, she's like, you even get a shot where she sees the javelin and re-grabs it on her escape, and it's like a video game where it's got like a glowing light, like, pick up this weapon, you need it for later. Yeah. And then she picks it up, and then right at the end she's like, I know why I have this javelin, to stab Starro in his eye and to fall into his gooey eyeballs so rats can crawl in here and like eat him from the inside, which I thought was... Who would have seen that coming? You know, like, it's just
Yeah, that's the great thing about it, is it seems like she's just grasping at straws. Like, she has just arbitrarily decided that the javelin is important, so we'll carry it with her until something comes up that she can use it for. And honestly, it's not just Starro. She uses it all. Like, she kills 40 people with it. It saves her from, when she jumps out of the falling tower. So she actually uses it quite a bit. It's just like, it's that thing, you speak to people who are a little bit mystical or spiritual or whatever, and they're like, oh, this, it's meaning, and they've got like crystals or some dumb shit, and it's like, this isn't doing anything. But you know what? If you believe it, and at the end of the day that brings you comfort, cool. That's great. That's awesome. Sure. That's what 100%. The javelin is. It's just a bunch of crystals.
Yeah. That's a really cool way to look at it. I thought it was a really kind of fun way to kind of, I don't know, it kind of tapped into her kind of madness. Well, not madness, that's a rude way to look at it. But like, that kind of like, she's going to, like, someone half says that the javelin is meant for her, and then she just fixates on it, She's like obsessed with it. And that's almost her arc, There's that tangent with the president, but then like is mostly just javelin related anecdote, kind of stuff, which I thought was really fun. Also,
I know I sounded very down on the character in concept, but I think she's wonderful in this movie. I love Margot Robbie. I really like the character in this. I think the fact that they scaled down the bad guys, and it's just, military people for the most part until Starro at the end, was a very good idea. And it actually, like, the 2016 Suicide Squad, I'm just like, why is she here? Why? Dude, why is she here?
That whole movie, though, is like, what if Superman was still alive and evil? Let's get a woman with a bat and a mental health issue and have her, it's nonsense, the way they team it up. Whereas in this one, it's like, man, when they all get together and like, I don't want to throw more shade under Thor Ragnarok, but we get a giant demon monster, and it's like, oh, I would have loved to see Thor and Hulk all fight him and stuff, but they just don't. But in this movie, we get a big scene where they all kind of throw their powers at it, and even Harley Quinn's able to get a shot in at Starro, which is a lot of fun, I think, because she wouldn't have been able to do that without the javelin, but like, I don't know, she still had the kind of, balls to like jump at this giant freaking kaiju.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk about the best character in the movie?
Oh my god. I have an inkling I know what you're going to say, but go.
Polka Dot Man.
Oh, no! I thought you were going to do a cheeky Doctor Who reference then. But when I was going to be like, really, your favourite? Is it just because you like Doctor Who? Yeah. No, okay. Polka Dot Man was your favourite. Hit me with why. Because I loved him, but Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that recurring like Oedipal mother motif was the funniest recurring gag in the movie. I thought it just fleshed the character out. He is absolutely unhinged in every way, but there's like a horrible sense of like deep childhood trauma attached to it that makes him tragic. Yeah. And I mean, his death too, I don't know, he really just encapsulates everything about James Gunn that works. The humor, the darkness, the colorful, crazy visual spectacle. Yeah. He is James Gunn in character form. Kind of off a bit, a little zany and crazy. I think for the most part, I love the like allergic build-up reaction. He has to puke out polka dots.
Oh, yeah, the body horror aspect of it really shocked me, and that was grotesque but also amazing. Yeah.
I said the best character, maybe not the best character in terms of like character beats, but maybe for the amount of screen time they get and for the amount it resonates, and I've been thinking about it, maybe that's why I think it's the standout and the most memorable. And it's David Desmelchin, who was in The Dark Knight, who also steals the show in like one tiny scene when he's tortured by Harvey Dent, or, you know, Harvey Dent captures him and he's got Rachel Dawes' name tag on. Yeah. And he's just so unhinged in that too. He was also in, I think, the Ant-Man movies, but doesn't get anything to do there.
Oh, yeah. In the Ant-Man movies, he plays probably the only time he ever plays someone who's not just unhinged, gross and creepy and unhinged. Because when he appeared in the trailers, I'm like, that guy will be a super creepster. Because he plays disgusting creepsters. Like, that's kind of like his go-to. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I feel like that's kind of a half typecast he's been in. But this really, it was quite amazing. Like, the first time where they're just like, he gets a bit of backstory and he talks about his disease and he's like, I was from Star Labs. I'm like, the thing from the other DC thing. I love it. And he's just like, my mum wanted to make us all superheroes, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, where's your mum now? And he's like, and I'm expecting him to be like, she's dead, I killed her. But he's just like, she's everywhere. And it cuts to them. And I'm just like, no! Oh, no! Oh, my God, he sees her. Oh, no. It fucking... I screamed the first time. It's so funny. It's so disturbing. And then, obviously, with the payoff where Idris Elba's like, you gotta kill Starro Polka Dot Man. He's like, I can't. And he's like, it's your mum. And then he sees a giant mother smashing down cities. I'm just like, perfect. Oh, this film has everything. This is so good.
This movie is the definition of a 1-2 punch, where it's like the 1 and the 2 and then the punch, the setup and then they reinstill it and then the punch at the end, and every character kind of gets it. You know, Harley Quinn gets it, Idris Elba gets it, David Desmelchin's Polka Dot Man gets it, Peacemaker gets it. Even the relationship between Bloodsport and Peacemaker, the little bullet riff, I'll shoot you with a smaller bullet, you know, my bullet will go through yours, and then that callback at the end, it's you know, this movie just really delivers a 1-2 punch on so many levels that, and look, I think we discussed this briefly, that, you know, when we first kind of gave our thoughts to each other, we were just messaging, and one thing I said, you know, maybe the movie's not really about anything. If I have a criticism of it, that might be it. Not that a movie has to be about something. Yeah. And this movie is kind of tangentially, each character is about something, but maybe they don't all coalesce into a larger, you know, I really like that in a movie when the themes all tie back into one neat little package and bow. And maybe it did, and it's just a little bit more elusive and I haven't discovered it yet. Maybe on a rewatch I'll be like, this is the overarching whatever, the thing that binds, but right now I can't honestly say that I've discovered that.
Is this a perfect time for me to kind of reveal what I think the theme of the movie is?
Absolutely.
So, and I've got to be honest, this isn't first and foremost my own thought. I watched the movie. Fuck, I just hit the sound. Sorry. I watched the movie. I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest movie ever. Maybe the second. And I messaged you. You messaged me back, and you're like, is the film about anything? I'm like, is it about anything? And I wasn't like, bam, 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 this is what it's about. No, you're wrong. There is a strong central theme. I didn't have that thought. Listen to a podcast, and then I rewatched it this morning with just that, in the back of my mind. Not at the forefront. I was just, I'm going to watch it and have my own thoughts and feelings. But that was at the back of my mind. And almost immediately, I was like, no, I think it is. And then by the end of the film, I'm like, no, it 100% is. I think the theme of this movie is this kind of anti-war fuck America theme and it's personified with Peacemaker, who literally says, if this beach was, you're being facetious, but if this beach was covered in dicks, I would eat every dick on this beach for liberty. And then he has a scene where he's like, I'll fucking kill everyone at this fucking guerrilla war camp. And she's like, what the fuck? Aren't you Peacemaker? And he's like, I am. I'll do anything for peace. I'll kill every child, man, woman for peace. And there's all these lines of peace, peace, peace. And then Flag, no, he's not called Captain America, but he's essentially like this movie's Captain America, where he's like, I'm going to do everything for the American government, for the American corporate kind of Task Force X kind of thing. And then he has this kind of roadblock when he finds out that, then the kind of the twist of the movie, that the thinker, Peter Capaldi, Mr. Anti-Doctor Who in this movie, perfectly cast by Peter Capaldi, who's like, fucking America found Starro. Starro's all happy, just floating in space, not hurting anyone. And America grab him onto a ship, put him into the ship. The ship goes crazy, and then we start experimenting him, and we start fucking with him. And then at the very first chance of America getting found out for having this monster, Task Force X and Suicide Squad, they're all coming together to make sure that America isn't found out for doing this. And so we're going to get all these villains and make them murder anybody. We'll kill all the guerrilla fighters. We'll kill everybody. Amanda Waller even has a line where she's like, Starro's out. But you know what? You've destroyed the evidence. We've dealt with all of the American kind of side effects. And this is some small little nation that's not America. Fucking let Starro take the whole city. I don't know, we'll call in Superman. He'll kill him in 2 seconds. Like if he comes to America. Don't worry about it. And she's going to blow all their heads up for stopping Starro because it doesn't affect America anymore. And Peacemaker versus Rick Flag. And then Peacemaker killing Rick Flag. And then Rick Flag's like dying and he's got his heart all Mortal Kombated. And he's like, fucking Peacemaker. What a joke. And it's kind of this like,
do you think that's a metaphor? The literal stabbing in the heart and then showing it? Is that like a visual metaphor for what you're talking about here, where you have the diametrically opposed moral value of Peacemaker and Rick Flag, who should be on the same side, but one has heart and one is essentially like a cold-blooded monster pursuing whatever he can in the name of liberty. Do you think that's why he showed that shot?
Oh my God. Yes. I mean, I would never have come to that. I was really just like, that seems like a Mortal Kombat video game kind of thing.
Yeah, it does.
Close up heart,
But there's got to be a reason. You don't spend all that money on that shot. And you can achieve the same thing just by stabbing him with the tile. It's just as...
Oh, no, yeah. It's just as heartbreaking. That is spectacular analysis there, Keiran. Because that's like... No, yeah, I really think that's like a really interesting choice. Now I'm like sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, fuck, man, like... Yeah, because you're stabbing the kind of good-hearted American soldier, and then Peacemaker's that like violent, I'll do anything for peace. I'm your Punisher. I'm your this. I'm your that. I am for peace. I am for America. Honestly, but I'll do anything for it. Too much for it,
And getting a bit real here, if we want to talk about the wars that have been. I mean, every war since World War II has essentially been a proxy war between Russia and America. The Vietnam War, the Korean War, the war in Iraq. And it's all under the guise of this sense of, we're pursuing peace and liberty and freedom and justice, and we know what the right thing is, and we will decimate any country that we can to accomplish it.
Peace by any means necessary.
And they never really. I mean,
man.
World War II is obviously, like, you can't call America the bad guy there, because the bad guys were so bad. They were the worst bad guys. The unfortunate thing, and we'll touch on this in Jungle Cruise, if you lose a war, you're destined to become the villain in every movie.
I know exactly what you mean, which is really funny. Because you just, as soon as you say World War II, I'm like, Hitler isn't even a person anymore. He's like, in pop culture, sorry. In real life, obviously, the worst thing.
But he's not. He's an amalgamation of everything evil.
He is now this comical, insane villain of just, he'll be in Preacher as like Everyone knows what I mean. They've seen everything. They've seen a Doctor Who episode where they're like, did we just save Hitler's life? Or, it's just, he's not even a real man anymore. And he's in Tarantino's movie saying, 9999999.
And the fact that, sometimes you can win doing the right thing, and then that can lead you down the path of, like, thinking that you're morally justified, and this fear of these ideologies were so then instilled into the American subconscious that it's become ultimately, like, the media drumming people up into war. That's what they do. I mean, that's what Hitler did in Nazi Germany. Without the advent of the radio, Hitler does not do what he did. He does not get into the minds and hearts of people across his nation. The reason he did that was because of radio, because he was, his voice was in every home. And this had this intoxicating effect on the people that they ended up supporting him. And then we see this again and again, and it's not until Vietnam that it goes the other way, where we see that the media actually turn on the establishment, and the war is ended because the media determines, we're not the good guys anymore. Like,
and just you saying that, I'm like, dude, if this film doesn't have your weasels being like, I've killed 27 children, and your king sharks being like, and eating people alive, and then being like, we'll fucking give you to our white great shark who's sitting in our fucking truck, and all these silly jokes. If every dick on this beach was a dick for liberty, I'd eat it all. If they didn't have these jokes, fuck, man, I think the themes of this movie, just you saying all this stuff, I'm like, dude, this movie's about all that shit. It's like, got Peacemaker fucking being like, I will kill you. Hero of America, Rick Flag. I'll kill you right fucking now. And John Cena's acting his goddamn heart out. He's like, I might have been a wrestler one day, and The Rock will never have shit on me though, cunt. Like, look at my eyes. I'm acting like fucking Dave Bautista and bloody Blade Runner. I'm like real acting. And it's like really heart-wrenching shit when he's like gonna murder Rick Flag. Because Rick Flag's like, I'm sick of this shit. I signed up to serve America, not be their patsy, not be their pawn. But honestly, there's so much. You've got a giant fucking Starmie fucking jumping about with his purple blue arms, running about as a freaking kaiju, that you almost forget that, like, honestly, the first time I was like, yeah, this film's not about anything. And you're just saying all this shit. I'm like, dude, this film's about some fuck shit. Like, some really
I think I've talked myself out of it.
Stuff.
And we both have. Yeah, we're both... this is what I love about doing this podcast.
Oh man.
Discovering things through just talking. Because sometimes, like, when you just watch something and when you just... you think about it on your own, when you can't bounce ideas off, when you can't hear someone else's interpretation, and we could be way off. We could hear James Gunn be like, "No, this was just a throwback to like."
I love America. Fuck other countries. Whoa, James Gunn, calm down.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's. What did you think of Peter Capaldi?
Oh, okay, so I think that if I hadn't, not recently, but we hadn't gone through to episodes that haven't come out yet, but will come out maybe at some point when
our elusive Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah. They'll come out when Doctor Who needs to come out. Our 40,000 hour Doctor Who podcast. I love Peter Capaldi as Doctor Who, and I just think that with that in my mind, seeing him rock up with big... what would you call is on his head? Before I get into it. What would
like
you call
antenna or something? Yeah.
Yeah, like weird antenna brainy things. And he's the thinker, and he's a diabolical genius who's been torturing this giant animal that was in space, whose last line of dialogue before it's killed by a million rats and a Harley Quinn is like, I was happy in space, you fucking cunts, leave me there.
And that broke my heart.
Dude,
yeah.
heartbreaking. Even though there are moments before that where he's like, the city is mine!
Yeah.
You're like, calm down, Starro. You can't have it both ways, bro. I'm sorry, you can't. But no, it really did get me, because I was like, man, Peter Capaldi is the perfect choice. Because who do you get for a character in a movie where literally the villain, like the character he's playing, is a villain in a Doctor Who episode? Who do you get? The angriest doctor there ever was and ever will be, and get him. And then he gets this great speech where he gets the Capaldi all over the place, where he's like, fuck America! You think you fucking did this? You think you fucking did that? And on the second watch, with that kind of fuck America theme kind of going through, and not even just America, but just fuck war in general, and that kind of government control and trying to hide what you've done and not taking responsibility for what you've done and all these things. I think he did a really good job of just kind of in like 2 minutes just being like, fucking, this is fucked, man. And you think you're coming here being like, we're serving America to come and fuck you up. It's like, no. They're using you. You don't know what's going on, bro. And I think that was really clever. And then he gets the classic, Dr. Frankenstein kind of, I didn't mean to hurt your Starro / Frankenstein / any monster ever. I feel so bad. And he gets ripped apart, and you're like, that's pretty savage. And then the half of his body gets slung against the window, and he explodes in blood. And both times I watched it, I screamed with like laughter and horror and just, it's glorious. Like
it is.
It's absolutely disgusting, obviously, but just kind of glorious to see someone who clearly kind of deserves to be grabbed by tentacles and thrown against the window. And I really enjoyed him. I honestly kind of would love like 1 or 2 more scenes with him.
Yeah.
But you know what? The same with Ratcatcher 2. I didn't leave the film being like not developed enough. It wasn't that. It was just more that this film's doing so much so well that if it had been 2 hours and 25 minutes, not 2 hours, I just think everything would have been strengthened.
Yes.
Not overdrawn, and honestly, maybe just him and Ratcatcher 2. Everyone else, and King Shark. I really wished I'd had one more King Shark scene where he's dancing with all the piranhas, and he's like, piranhas, and that kind of, you get that heartfelt side of this kind of bumbling child shark man.
Also, you get a little bit of heart when they have that sequence in the bar, and he's sitting out in the car crying.
Oh.
That's there.
Yeah. Actually, just one thing. Isn't it bizarre how 2016 Suicide Squad is like, they all meet in a bar, and that's when they bond and are a found family. Then 2021 Suicide Squad's like, what if we did that, but good? And then you have like lots of little tiny beats where like John Cena's like, get us a drink of whatever you bloody drink in this country. You fucking forgot the rat. Give the rat a drink. And then Ratcatcher 2's like, and John Cena just does that beautiful he just does like a little, I thought of the rat. And I'm like, they're all bonding. This is real bonding. And then Polka Dot Man's dancing, and you're like, look at him have fun. Oh, God, everyone dancing's his mom. No! Oh, no. I hate it, but I love it. Yeah. Oh, God damn.
Yeah.
He's fucking
Wonderful stuff.
Brilliant stuff, yeah. What did you think of Peter Capaldi, Mr. Evil Doctor Who?
I think, I really think you summed up my thoughts there. I would have liked a little bit more, but that's because I just love Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
And I can just watch that man act all day. He's iconic as the Doctor. He's iconic as Malcolm Tucker in the thick of it. I think whatever he does, he just elevates and brings an incredible presence to, and he can do funny and dark and serious and brooding and all of it. Whatever you need to get from him, you can do it. I would just like to see more people utilize him. I'm so glad. Yeah. I'm just glad he was in this, that it will increase his his spectre or his stardom beyond, the British, beyond the BBC where most of his stuff has come out.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Peter Capaldi. I like the character, but yeah, maybe, I guess you could have just put a little bit more of him fucking with Starro, had a little bit more fun with that, and then maybe that sells that end death even a little bit more, but
do you mean
I'm okay. I'm okay that they didn't.
Maybe? Like
What's
once
that?
they capture... So for instance, when we get Peter Capaldi's kind of main scenes, he takes them through his lab and they're like, what the fuck's all this shit? And he's like, this is Project Starfish. These are all my slaves and these are all my like subjects. And you see like a half man. You see what happens when they take the starfish off the face and it's all mutilated and disgusting.
Yeah.
You get all that stuff. Would you like maybe then at that moment to get a flashback to him as a younger man fully kind of going through that stuff? Or is that what you're saying?
And just, maybe some more... a conversation between Starro and the Thinker, or
cool. Yeah.
I don't even know what I want.
Villains, so all the different what do you call them? Like subjects, where they're all like talking through Starro, going through, maybe having a big conversation with him before he's captured would be really fun. To see what he's like before he knows it's kind of over. That might have been interesting. Yeah.
Because he had all those things in his head, I kept thinking, does he have some kind of power? But I suppose it's just beefs up his mental faculties or something like that.
They could have gone a bit more like but like crazy with the powers of what those things do. But man, just even seeing him walk about with them in his head, I'm like, that looks real. It looks like he shaved his head and they stuck tubes in his brain.
Okay, let's let good segue there to the visuals. There are like a number of shots in this film that are absolutely wonderful and spectacular.
What's your favorite?
Maybe when they're walking through the rain.
Yes.
I think that it's, and I mean it's the most showy, but it's wonderful. It's visually dazzling. It's unlike anything that I've seen put to screen. I think I don't know. It just really worked. I think just that backlit, like silhouetted, them walking into towards the camera, the rain coming down. It all just looks spectacular. King Shark rips someone in half.
Oh, and the lightning kind of goes off in the background to kind of highlight him for a moment.
Absolutely beautiful stuff. Yeah, and technically a mistake. Technically, they've overexposed that shot dramatically. We talked about this in Lady Snowblood. That doing the wrong thing adds an incredible visual flair sometimes, and drastically overexposing the image to really put emphasis on these characters is just, it's wonderful, and it's it's just further proof that sometimes break the rules for that extra bit of flair.
100%. In terms of that shot specifically, I think that was one of the shots that made me really go like, this film, can it do any wrong? Like you've got Idris Elba's character, like it starts raining and he walks off out of focus, and then suddenly they come from the other direction as a whole posse, and it just kind of like, I don't know, I think you have that beautiful moment of your Seven Samurai-esque kind of thing of like, here's the team, here's the crew, we're doing a thing. And then you have this not awful, but like kind of brutal fight where he's just slingshot bulleting them all from a distance, and everyone gets killed off in the rain quite quietly. And then it gets really violent and quick, like bam, 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 gunshot. 2 people shot with 1 gun, and it's quite quick. And then James Gunn's like pace of a scene is just so expertly used, where it's like so quick and violent, and then it's just King Shark looming, and the scene slows down, and then we get the kind of the crescendo, if you will, of the scene.
The money shot.
The money shot's a better way to put it. Of him ripping him apart and the lightning and that. I don't know, there's just certain moments like that. Like there's even just one way earlier on where they're like, you gotta go get a bloody Rick Flag. And he's like, And they're just saying, just kind of, not nothing dialogue, it's all plot related. But he's like, yeah, you didn't tell us there was another team. And she's like, oh, it wasn't relevant till now, and now it's relevant. Fucking go do what I say, you piece of shit. And you just get this beautiful shot of the island, and they're walking over the island, and the sun's rising or setting or something. And it's just this epic shot of the island, and you just see kind of the characters walking like it's like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings or something. And you get all of them walking in a silhouette on the island. And there's little moments like that in this film that are just really beautiful. The rain scene is definitely the standout, though. It's... goddamn, it looks good. That whole sequence, that whole action sequence looks great.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else visually that really stood out. I suppose even just like the polka dot man effect, I think that worked really well.
I'm sorry that it's so flamboyant. I think it looks nice. I thought that was so funny that he's around such macho men like the Peacemaker and Rick Flag and Idris Elba and shit, that he's apologizing for how colourful it is. He's like, I'm sorry that I killed all those people with such a flamboyant superpower. My bad. Something about that is just very kind of funny. I don't know. It's so silly that he'd be embarrassed about it because he fucking melts cunts alive. Like,
like horrifically.
Actually, this is a bit of a tangent from the visual of the movie, but something to do with Polka Dot Man that I thought was so odd the first time I watched it, because I was just like, I think I'm behind the pace on this joke. Then rewatching it, I think it's my favourite joke in the whole movie. You might know what I'm talking about. Oh my god, he's in the rain sequence shot, but you might forget him because there's so many good characters. Milton, baby.
Of course.
Dude, when Milton dies and he's like, fucking Milton's dead! The first time I'm like, who? What? Is Milton? Who's Milton? And then she's like, who's Milton? And I'm like, I wasn't even really funny because I'm like, I forgot. I've had too many beers tonight. I forgot the whole character. I felt a little bit behind. And rewatching it, I'm like, that fucking guy is in half the movie. He's giving them fucking enchiladas. He's fucking riding the bus. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's in so much of this movie.
He's in the rain shot.
He's in the rain shot. Exactly. Yeah. And then they're like, who's Milton? And later Harley Quinn thinks that Bloodsport's name is Milton. But I'm like, he was what? But it's
because
so funny.
She's been separated from them, so that kind of
why
fit perfect.
Would you know? And honestly, I've watched the film twice, and I didn't notice Milton the first time. He is in almost every shot. There's a scene where they're like, Peter Capaldi, if you do this, we'll kill you. If you do that, we'll kill you. If you sneeze your bloody nose and you don't put your hands over your nose, we'll kill you. And Milton's just there, giving everyone food in the background of the shots. Like, he's there the whole time. So it's like this incredibly meta joke, and to have Polka Dot Man be the one that notices him, and all the main characters are kind of too caught up in everything like we are the first time. I mean, some viewers obviously might notice him more than I did, but I really only noticed him the second time, and not even because of the Milton joke. Just, you know, when you just notice more a second viewing, where you're just aware of different aspects of the film, because, you know, the story's kind of been told, obviously. I thought that was just a very, very funny joke. And the way that Polka Dot Man is so sincere and so sad that he's dead, and the other two characters are so mean about it. And just so like, what the fuck was Milton gonna do? What's he gonna do? He's like, he was here, he was trying to help. And you're like, Are there any other main characters we haven't discussed? Oh, King Shark. What do you think about King Shark?
I thought that, you know, considering James Gunn's track record with CGI characters, that there would be a little bit more. But I can't say I was like disappointed or anything. I guess my expectations were not overly high, so the fact that nothing blew me away, I don't know. He's fine. The comedic beats are good. The horrific. The horrifically violent moments are great. He serves his purpose, but I think the only part that surprised me was the part where he's out in the car and they're all inside having fun, and I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, because this is the only one that can't hide. Even Polka Dot Man can kind of hide his polka dots at sometimes. Yeah, It's a heartbreaking little moment for him. I think for me, just because he's been realized in like shows like The Flash, which is a TV series that has some of the worst and best CGI a TV series with 22 episodes a season on CW can possibly have. And every season they have like one episode with King Shark in it. And he's more of a hammerhead kind of looking shark in that. But he's big and he's like 10 foot tall and he's muscly and like, more hulkish. And in this, the visual is exactly the same as the Harley Quinn show, where he's a bit more fat and flubbery and a mortal kind of flubber of the skin of Superman. But I just loved, I don't know, I just think that characters like that, when they're extremely violent but fun and silly, it's Groot but better than Groot. And he's pretty much just violent Groot, which makes sense for violent James Gunn Suicide Squad movie, but
kind of like a mixture of Groot and Drax, I guess, because he's a bit dopey and I don't know.
Yeah, no, 100%, yeah. I think that just maybe King Shark in, like, say, your animated Suicide Squad movies and just animated stuff, and just as a character in general in the DC kind of universe, is kind of like a favorite of mine, if not one of my favorite kind of B to D list supervillain characters.
Yeah.
I think almost just seeing him in a movie portrayed in any way, he's going to be one of my favorites. Yeah, so he really, like, just even when they arrive and they're like, here's this character, here's King Shark. Well, they don't say King Shark. He's got a different name in this, but...
Nane? Is that his name?
Yeah, I don't even know. They said it, and I'm like, just call him King Shark. He's King Shark. Like, it's... Yeah. He is, so... But I don't care about that. But I love how everyone's like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, they freak out when they see him. Because it's a giant shark monster. And I'm a big fan of monsters and crazy shit. And that's why him and Weasel are... I've said so much good stuff about other characters, but they are the standouts for me. Because when I look at Weasel and King Shark, I'm just like, I cannot believe they look real. It's almost that hyper real. I'm like, they look realer than Harley Quinn does. She's a real person on set, Like they just look so real. I love it.
Did you like the little sub team of people with Viola Davis?
Her Cabin in the Woods crew, kind of, if you will.
Yeah, and one of them knocks her out at a point in the movie with a golf club. Another great little setup and then reveal.
I think on the second watch, I think what I found the most rewarding about that is that the big guy with the beard feels like he's the guy who's constantly being like, what the fuck? She's going to murder fucking Idris Elba's kid? That's fucked up shit. And he looks like he's the one that's going to do it. But no, he's most fucked up about it, but he's also so human that he's actually like too cowardly to act on it. And then this other chick who's hiding her emotions fucking hits her. I don't know. On the rewatch, I'm like, that's so good. They've made these water cooler, humanized, bureaucratic kind of computer fucking cunts. Like they've made them so human that everyone's got these little bits of thing. Because they have characters like he's like the big bearded guy who you think would hit her with the wooden stick and knock her out for that emotional moment of like, no, go save the world from Starro. You'd think it'd be him because he's saying stuff like, they're going to fucking kill like the kid. And then the woman who does it shrugs that off at the start. Like she's like, da. But she's like probably hiding how much she's not on board with this. And then when it really push comes to shove, she's not just going to kind of shrug it off or say like, she's like, I'm going to fucking act. I'm going to fucking do something because I can. Yeah. And I thought that was really... The first time I watched it, I got to be honest, I think I just kind of thought this movie was going to Rogue One us. And I thought, wouldn't it be fucked up if Amanda Waller killed all 5 main characters? Because the plot beat is the same as Suicide Squad 2016, where they're like, we're all good guys, but let's stop the heart, kill the heart of the Enchantress or whatever the fuck's going on in that movie that should be Steppenwolf or blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that movie? But it's like, they're all going to do a good thing, even though they're kind of morally, kind of compromise people and all this stuff. So I thought, wouldn't this movie kind of pay off in the most fuck Hollywood way, where all 5 anti-heroes who are now heroes walking off to stop a Starro, and then all 5 of their heads just went boom, 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 Kingsman style, where everyone's heads explode. then it could like have the credits play, and in a post credits you could have Superman and Wonder Woman fly into Corte Maltese or whatever and just smash through Starro's face. And they're like, you should have just called us. Why would you call us Suicide Squad to do a Justice League mission? And then they just fly off into the distance again, because he could kill him in 5 fucking seconds, you know. And I thought in my mind, as I'm watching the first time, I think my brain was just like, do the most insane thing. But on a rewatch, the millions of rats coming up and killing him that way, and the heart of, you know, as I said before, with the rat catcher, one Taika Waititi, like, rats are fucking despised, but they have a purpose, and all that stuff. I actually really like. I really like that when they get back on the ship at the end, she's got a head nestled on King Shark. She's not worried that he's going to eat him. I'm not worried that he's going to eat her, sorry. And he pats the rat, even though he said he'd never fucking pat a rat. I don't know. I'm like, I like this heartwarming ending, even though these are all morally compromised piece of shit cunts, you know? I really like that. I don't want them all to die. I don't need that from this movie, even though this is the movie to give that to me. Because I loved everyone so much, as opposed to, say, a Rogue One, where it's like, who fucking cares everyone dies? These are all terrible characters that you didn't make me give a shit about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Rogue One is like, just, it's so inconsequential when they all die.
No, it's just like someone said, you can do it. And they're like, oh, we'll do it. Oh, you're going to make them interesting characters? No. Should you do it? Who fucking cares? No one cares. Just fucking make this movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh. Let's not get into that. I'm gonna get too angry and negative, bro. I'm in a positive, fun mood. Talking of positive and fun, should we get into Starro, the most bright, colourful, incredibly weird, bizarre third act of a movie that any superhero film's done?
I think if you of the blockbuster $150 to $200 million genre picture that we keep getting again and again now, I think this is the best way you could spend that money. Just go all out, do something crazy and wild. It's in the comics. It's well known, not well known, but known enough.
The first Justice League villain ever.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what? Just crazy little tangent for 2 seconds. The Weekly Planet podcast, which is amazing. Everyone should check it out. But if you listen to this, you probably know of it. They did a video of like the 12 best Justice League or most famous Justice League villains ever. And like at number like 6 or so, or whatever number, Starro was there. And I'm like, Starro? That sounds so weird. It's like a big Starmie from Pokemon. And they're like, this is only famous because it's the first Justice League villain they ever fought in the comic ever. And then literally like 6 to like 10 days later, the Suicide Squad trailer dropped, in which Starro appears. And apparently Starro fucking freaked James Gunn out. Like, James Gunn was terrified as a kid of this character. So he's like, I've got to turn this big starfish fucking cunt into like a scary dude. Like, I've got to have him have little babies of himself pour out of his orifices like a fucking gremlin monster doomsday thingy. And I've got to make people feel the way I did when I was 6 and couldn't know any better because it's a big stupid starfish monster. And I think he does a pretty good job of making him terrifying for such a stupid, cartoonishly colourful villain.
Terrifying and then tragic, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think you said earlier, like, you know, he was like, I'm taking over the city. That was really just because he was pissed off for being tortured for 30 years. And ultimately, like, I don't think the starfish can, like, fly. I don't think he can get back into space. So, of course, he's just going to destroy the place that he's been held captive. And then as he's dying, just that tragic line. And, you know, he just wanted to continue floating in outer space and looking at the stars.
Looking at the stars, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful, it's that sneaky little bit of heart that he's getting in there with all the characters, yeah.
That's what James Gunn is the best at.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he's the best at so many things. He's such an interesting director and filmmaker and personality, and, you know, I'm excited to see what he does next, because you just know it's going to be different and unique. And, you know, even Guardians 3, I'm just excited to see where that goes, how he wants to wrap it all up, and where he's going to take these characters.
isn't it bizarre that we get... I mean, for me, like, even just talking with you now, I'm like, this is my second favorite DC film. I love this film to my core. Like, just talking with you about it, I'm like, I'm sure maybe you'd be like, what about this film? I'm like, oh, fuck, there's just so many movies I love. But I love superheroes. I love insane monsters. I love color. I love craziness. I'm not the biggest fan of gore when I was like 19 and shit, but when it's done right, like this film, I really do appreciate when you can kind of use it to your advantage, like the first 15 minutes of this movie, and really, you know, fuck with you, the audience that way. But like, isn't it just crazy that we get this type of movie, the way it's presented, because A, they fucking made an atrocious Suicide Squad due to BVS failing and the trailer company coming in and doing a trailer that everyone kind of responded to and then being like, more jokes, more color, title
more
screens,
songs,
songs, Eminem, put Eminem in. And like, and then James Gunn gets fired due to things that happened 10 years ago. And so he's not doing Guardians 3. So he makes this movie. But then he's back to do Guardians 3. So we all kind of get the best of both worlds. And there's all this unrelated... not unrelated, but, you know, this politics that doesn't matter towards
Thank
this
God
film.
for cancel culture.
Dude,
or we don't get this movie.
Isn't it so weird? Like, I would never think I'd say that. But yeah, it's like... It's just crazy. It's kind of just the same as how one of the other better, I wouldn't say good, but better DCEU films is... the Zack Snyder Justice League is only here because the world fucking decided to end with the pandemic and HBO Max started to launch, and you know, there's so many different little factors that kind of gel together, which will never get David Ayer's Suicide Squad because HBO Max is already launched, and we're some countries, we're still in fucking lockdown here, as you could tell by my bloody video, but it's like, there's so many little pieces that make certain films happen, but Justice League, Zack Snyder, and now this are so dependent on these odd kind of outside these movies politics and life world changing things that it just kind of, I don't know, it's crazy that we're kind of blessed with a better Justice League and a perfect Suicide Squad, especially compared to the other one, movies. And I don't know, as filmmakers, as film viewers, we're kind of blessed with that right now. It's just bizarre.
I think what I would really like to see from now on is DC to just keep doubling down and like finding these, like, I don't know if you call them auteurs, but these like these visionary directors, and just like giving them a thing and letting them take it in any direction they want. Like, this movie for me is more like a Joker than anything. You know, it's like a singular, uncompromised vision that someone has about this character, and that one's just a singular character study. This one is an ensemble. That's the main difference, but in the fact that they kind of stand completely on their own, and they're doing their own thing, and there's no compromise, and there's nothing else that these movies need to lean on to achieve what they're setting out to do, where everything else in the DCEU feels just so straddled by everything surrounding it. And the same way like that, you know, Marvel maybe found a better balance with their cinematic universe because everything is kind of same. And then every now and then you'll have a director come in and just inject enough vision in that they've elevated it above, you know, the low tier films like Black Widow, Incredible Hulk, Ant-Man. You know, those are the just like flat, you know,
Marvel brand, yeah. It does enough to make you go, I had fun watching that. Do I want to rewatch that every day for the rest of the year? Like a Suicide Squad? Fuck no, yeah. Do
you want the DCEU to continue? Or do you want them to just make individual movies? Or do you want them to just do a whole new cinematic universe down the line? Or what do you want?
I mean, it's so hard to say, because it's like, this kind of movie, like, it, honestly, if this movie had Ben Affleck's Batman in it for a cameo, introducing one of the characters the way Suicide Squad did with the Flash and Batman in the old Suicide Squad, I would have fucking loved that, man.
Because James Gunn would have nailed it.
Yeah, and honestly, this is the second best Suicide Squad movie that exists. Batman, Assault on Arkham, the animated movie, is the perfect Suicide Squad movie. It's all Suicide Squad. You've got your Captain Boomerangs, you've got your Blood, I think it's Deadshot in it, and you've got your Harley Quinn, but Batman plays like a 15, 20-minute maybe cameo, like a strong cameo in it. And then the Joker plays into the finale. It's essentially what the old Suicide Squad movie was trying to do. But it's perfect. And the final act has characters like Poison Ivy and Bane coming with their big powers, and it's overblown, and it's your Starro kind of finale with a big smashy thing smashing stuff. But it's so good, but it has everything. It's got my Suicide Squad, it's got my Amanda Waller being a fucking bitch, it's got Arkham characters, it's got Batman, it's like, so if this had all of those little elements that goes, like literally, if this movie had ended and Superman had the cameo where they're like, who the fuck is Bloodsport? Oh, Bloodsport shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet. If we had cut away to fucking Idris Elba shooting Henry Cavill with a fucking kryptonite bullet, a kryptonite bullet, I would have lost my goddamn mind. I would have loved that. Or a new recast Superman. Just have the colors of Superman in it. Like, I just love these type of movies that have all the things in them. The animated movies never hold your hand with being like, there's this character, there's this character. Some of the movies are just like, they'll put a character in and be like, if you don't know who this dude is, you're lost. But they just presume that you do. And they presume that you know enough about this universe to know who this guy is without his costume or with his costume or any of that stuff. I would have loved this movie to be connected or not connected as long as it was good at and like utilized it in a interesting or fun way, or kind of like, they don't need to be interconnected in the way that Infinity War is, where, you know, it's I don't know. The MCU's done an interesting thing, because if I've gone back to try and get into comics or animated stuff for Marvel, I'm often, if not 80 to 90% of the time, just like, I don't care about these guys. I don't like Captain America unless he's Chris Evans. I gotta be honest, I don't. Not at all. But fucking every interpretation of Batman, Joker, Robin, Nightwing, Harley Quinn, like there's just King Shark. He's got like 10 different there's 3 different King Sharks that I love. You know what I mean? Like, out of the dozens of choices. So yeah, maybe not. It's good that this movie is what it is, but if this movie was interconnected and then they were going to connect it to something more, and it was going to be like a stepping stone the way that the MCU is, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, I mean, we probably have an answer to the question, is that they're probably just going to do all of it. You know, well, we're getting a Flash film with multiple Batmen.
Oh, that's the great. Yeah, I'm so excited. Oh.
We're getting a new Batman, not connected to anything. Where, you know, Shazam is getting a sequel, which is part of the DCEU, maybe. I mean, it can just as easily not be, but I think it is the same way this movie is, you know.
Yeah, and sorry, as I just said before, with all these crazy things and all these things I was saying, I literally forgot as I was saying it, that this has Amanda Waller, Harley Quinn, Boomerang, and Rick Flag from the other Suicide Squad movie. They imply they're from the same universe. Are they from the same universe?
Of course.
Who fucking cares? But of course they are. But also, if you don't want them to be, they're not. And if you want them to be, they are. You know, it's like nothing in this movie is worse or better off if it's either or, you know? Oh, Boomerang and Harley Quinn know each other? Well, maybe they just fucking know each other. You know what I mean? Like, or it's because they know each other because they were in Suicide Squad 2016. You know, it works both ways, I think, which is nice.
Well, I think if, you know, the audience 20 years in the future are watching all the DC films and they put on Suicide Squad 2016 and then they put this one on right after, they're going to be absolutely fucking wowed. More so than if they had just put this movie on its own. Because it really feels like it's in tandem. It's having a conversation with what didn't work about that movie.
Yeah.
On almost every level.
every level. Your soundtrack, your title cards,
Yeah.
your Amanda Wallers, your bonding scenes in a bar, your found family, just the cast of characters, the choice of characters. It's kind of crazy how much it goes, fuck that other movie, but also is inspired by that other movie in a weird way. And some
Or
scenes
almost
don't
the
even
opposite
work.
of inspired. It's like,
Yeah, no, that's probably a better way to put it. Yeah.
it's like when you watch something bad, you know what not to do. And he really ran with that.
Oh, you have a family father-daughter scene? Well, his daughter is going to be like, fuck you, Dad! I fucking hate you! You're the worst father ever! And he's like, fuck you and your fucking watch where you can watch TV. And you're like, whoa, Jesus, this is crazy. That scene doesn't have the same feeling or meaning if you're not aware that he's kind of replacing Will Smith's character who loved his daughter. It's like, there's crazy stuff like that going on. It's a very interesting film.
Very, very entertaining. Great standalone piece. Great in the wider context too.
Yeah.
It almost works on every level. And yeah, I can see myself being more wowed by some more head explosions at the end, or maybe some more subversion. But I'm not unhappy with what we got too. So, yeah, I'm just really looking forward to revisiting it. I've only seen this film once, and I think I might just give it some time and come back to it and go on another fun ride down the track. You know, one thing we didn't talk about, which maybe we can tie up with this.
Ooh, yeah.
One of my favorite sequences of just all out comedy at a point is when Peacemaker and Bloodsport enter a camp of rebel fighters and massacre all the good guys in a one-upsmanship, broy, I'm a bigger man
contest,
yeah, it's so fun and funny, and I bet every audience member has a different point in that sequence where they realize what's going on. For some people, it's when the curtain's drawn. For some people, it's much further back. But, it just goes on and on and on. And it doesn't matter where you figure it out. It's just so enjoyable.
Dude, it's actually insane that we've talked about this movie for, let me look at the time, 2 fucking hours, and we are just getting to probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, where they essentially do the Predator scene where they go and kill a guerrilla camp before the movie gets going, and it does this little bit at the start, but you think they're murdering all these people, and on the rewatch for me, I'm like, there's people doing the washing, there's a guy with his fucking dick out, there's a guy bathing, there's a woman whistling. At one point, there's a woman walking and whistling, and she's murdered. They murder so many people in a dick measuring contest that ends with the other main character being like, these dudes rescued me. And it's probably my favorite moment in the movie, where it just cuts to her 2 minutes later and a close-up on that chick's face, the chick from Predator and probably other stuff, where she's just like, you're fucking... And it's a classic another fuck America kind of moment, theme-wise. But she's just like, you fucking pieces of shit. You walk in here, guns blazing, shooting, dicks out, bam, bam, bam. You killed all of us. And he's like, yeah, they all suck. Yeah. Oh, I'm Rick Flag. I'm trying to be nice. But it's just so brutal. But it's also incredibly well filmed. There's a great moment where the music cuts out for a second. Peacemaker jumps up on top of a building, and the music kind of kicks back into the doom 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 doom, and the way it's shot, there's some burning where he just lights 2 guys on fire. That looks spectacular. Like, not to just get all up into gruesomeness, but if you can light a man on fire and he's flying about on set on fire, and in the background another guy on fire falls into water, I'm overly impressed as like someone who's tried to make films and knows how hard it is on set to do the smallest of special effects. To see something like that, just so expertly done, and to see Peacemaker do lines like, he shoots behind his back, and you're like, oh, he missed. He's like, you didn't hit the fucking vital organs or whatever. And he's like, compressing bullets, they explode. And then it switches focus from him to the villain, to the character, explodes into blood, and then he's like, you're just a fucking show-off. Yeah, but everyone loves a show-off if what they're showing off is dope as fuck. And then he looks back at the camera and he whispers to himself, like, fuck, he's right. Like, yeah, it's... Yeah, when I text you and I'm like, I think the first half is perfect and the second half is pretty good. I think it's moments like that and the first scene where you've got your wheels dying and your boomerangs dying, and just there was such a frenetic energy and just a vibrant, just incredible, I don't know, energy to the filmmaking and to the camera work and to the humor that I think maybe I was so on board and so overwhelmed that after that gorilla killing scene, maybe I just had to kind of almost pause the movie to debrief my body to be ready for the second act. Because on the rewatch, I think the whole movie's perfect. It's great from start to finish. But maybe I was so overwhelmed by how much I enjoyed those first couple of sequences in the first act that I wasn't let down maybe the first time, but I was just overwhelmed that I wasn't able to enjoy, like when you're like laughing at comedy so much, like you watch a sitcom for so many episodes that the 7th or 8th episode in a row you binge, you're like, it's funny, but I'm not actually laughing out loud anymore.
Yeah, I'm tired.
You're tired. Yeah. I think I was just so battered down, like by the end with Starro smashing shit, being a big Starry fucking destruction being of Godzilla proportions. I was just overwhelmed. I wasn't able to
just springboarding off that, I've been really I've been watching a lot of movies, but I've really been trying to like mix up genre and filmmaker. And, even though I've like watched a lot of Taika Waititi, I've watched some Wes Anderson, but I mix it. I watch like maybe one or two a night. And it's really about getting that balance of emotion, and like you can't watch Boy and then right after watch something incredibly like emotionally draining, because I've just been fucking drained by that movie.
100%,
like,
yeah.
It's now I got to watch something a bit lighter. I think I watched The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell.
Did you like that?
Oh my God, did I like that?
It's so funny, right?
It's so funny. I can't believe they made that movie.
Yeah.
And I can't believe how few people talk about it. It is...
underrated,
and ahead of its time, came out in 2010, and it's like big, like, action, blockbuster, big budget thing, but it's all just... It's so creative too. There are sequences in The Other Guys that are just like... You didn't have to do a bar sequence that's a single shot where everyone's frozen still, and they track through their entire night of getting fucked up in a bar, but it's all just freeze frame. It's amazing. There are wonderful sequences. The movie starts with The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, and it's let's not get into The Other Guys.
That's honestly the only thing I remember is just that first 20 minutes in that switcheroo. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is fantastic, but I would say it just keeps going and it doubles down and it gets better and better. And maybe the third act is the weakest, only because the first two are just so fresh and invigorating. And even now, like, I don't know if Mark Wahlberg has done, like he did Ted.
What about The Happening? A classic comedy for the ages.
Well, that's the greatest comedy of all time. So
you're saying that facetiously. I think it's hilarious.
You
we'll
think
get
I'm
into
saying
it when we're doing the old.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Nice.
We got to watch that together someday.
Oh, we should. Oh, yeah.
But no, Mark Wahlberg maybe delivers his best comedic performance. I say that only because I don't really know of what others. I rewatched Ted and it's fine. It's whatever. But The Other Guys is just so good. I had a point and I lost it, but I think we pretty comprehensively covered this movie. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
I'm very happy. We both had a great time with it. I gotta say, if they announce that he's doing another one, oh man, what will he do? I'll just be so excited by the prospect that he would even come back and do this again.
I'd love it so much, yeah.
Because he would, because he did this, and this is already so much, and how do you take another step forward from this? But
he would though, and it wouldn't just be like a classic sequel. It'd really be pushing what they could do with it, yeah.
We just cross our fingers and hope that this movie makes all the money
I think it's done really badly due to pandemic.
Every movie's doing badly.
Suicide
so hopefully,
Squad being a bad movie in 2016, so the name isn't doing well. I think there's like a lot of reasons. I've read online it's done really badly compared to, say, Godzilla vs. Kong, which is a piece of shit compared to this, you know, like it's...
In every way, yeah.
Which is a shame, but unfortunately not overly surprising considering it's got the same name as a movie that sucks. You know, so you're just casual viewers like, I saw this, I hated this. I don't want to see Jared Leto again. Do you know what I mean? Like, your casual viewer that doesn't know... Pandemic, can't see the cinemas. You can't see this in the movies. We got into lockdown the day this was out in cinemas. Like, it's...
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we saw it legally, obviously, but most people didn't.
Yeah.
No, but fuck, I would have paid $50 for this movie if they would have fucking let me. They need to be more on top of this lockdown shit, man. Like, to be real. Like...
Yeah.
Let's not get into that.
Australians buy content like no other. You know, like
I was almost going to buy Jungle Cruise. Glad I did.
All right. Shall we...
for our other podcast episode on Jungle Cruise.
Our much shorter, hopefully.
Jesus Christ, yeah, it's going to be shorter.
All right. Well, great chat. Thank you, everyone, for listening, if you've listened this far.